The guru is one of the most misleading things we can find in our lives. In one sense, it's good to have a person that we admire for certain features, characteristics, abilities sometimes, but at the same time he can really represent a great blockage in our personal growth. For instance, before practicing qigong, I was part of a sangha, Buddhist sangha of more than 400 people. We were doing these big events all together, and what happened is basically that at the end the teacher died for a natural reason. He had actually cancer, and the movement, the sangha kept doing events to keep everything going. But something very peculiar I noticed, that still the language and the kind of beliefs carried on by that teacher were absorbed by the students in a very passive way. So like memorizing a song, memorizing a praying, but not really fully absorbing the actual lessons or becoming an example of those things. Which also is created by the fact that somehow we feel we are less than that person. In this case was a Buddhist teacher, but it can be a qigong teacher, it can be a qigong master. I'm not saying not to be respectful towards a teacher, which I think is a great thing to do, to educate ourselves in virtue, in discipline, and to develop also some moral characteristics in our life. But at the same time, being attached too much to the figure of the teacher, of a master as a special person, can really mislead our growth. Because like in the qigong system, for instance, many people are attracted by this kind of superpower thing that we see on the videos, right? But the good question would be, what it is the quality of the mind of that person, how that person behaves. Because at the end of the day, okay, we can do a qi mission, we can do a qigong, but so what? How is our life improved? Because that is just a minor moment. So we have to see those elements as let's say the peak of the iceberg of a greater transformation that is not really visible, but at the same time it might not include all the aspects of the human being. What I'm trying to say is, for instance, that we have students in the qigong who have finished the path, who have acquired certain abilities, and they behave like assholes. So what's the point of doing the work that we're trying to do? But what I wanted to say with this video really is more generic, in the sense that it can be applied on any kind of path that we are following. We are used to get told what to do, right? Or we are the ones telling others what to do. This is the kind of life situation. But there is also a third category, which is just, I don't care about, I don't give a fuck. There will be the the modern expression to say this, either to control people or to follow somebody. And that's actually, I think, is the best approach, because we don't put anybody on a pedestal, we don't look at this illusion of the masters, right? Because at the end of the day, it's an illusion. The master at the beginning might be useful to see certain aspects that we want to develop. So we see in that person certain things. But at the end of the day, we want to develop for ourselves those characteristics, and most of all, we want to think with our mind, without thinking that anybody is more special than us, just because they can fly over space, or they can light up a fire with their hands. So I'm not at all being respectful towards tradition, but at the same time, I'm warning about a big obstacle in our growth, which is, in general, is the big obstacle is the idea of growing spiritually, which is a big actually illusion created by our mind. And so we try to do something like a personal developing path or practices to get somewhere and to develop, and eventually, if we are lucky enough, we realize actually that there was no need for that. It was just about seeing our chaos inside, our disorder, and bringing some order practically, and that is the moment when all the questions vanish. But many people get stuck at, let's say, at level 2, let's call it like this. Level 1 I just understand that my life is not 100% working. I look around, I go on YouTube, I try to find people that can be spanning for me, and then I start to listening to them. Okay, that's level 1. We have to start somewhere. Level 2, I become a student, I become a devotee, I become a big supporter of that person. Well, that is where many people actually get stuck, at level 2. Believing that person, which is just actually a reflection of life, of our potential, and we might actually not seeing the totality of that person, or we might actually see what we want to see, which at some point, if that guru or person behaves in a different way, we might bring down all the good things, so we just discard it completely. But many people, they go around preaching what that person said. So if that person said that according to his or her experience, which might be 100% truthful, the sky is green, okay, we go around and telling other people and telling to ourselves that the sky is green. And this is the worst thing that we can do, because I'm not saying that it's not possible to learn tools from others, otherwise I wouldn't be here, honestly. But at the same time, we have to come up not with ideas, with our own experiences and understanding, because what's the point of believing? What's the point of following somebody because he has a particular ability, some kind of superpowers? Well, first of all, I want to get there myself, but then also I want to see if this is really the point. Because qigong, for instance, is a big amplifier. Your ego might become huge because the practices really work, or you might actually realize that there is no even need to finish the path to be okay. Even with the basic programs, you could actually realize that your life takes a different shapes, that you are more connected, you're more grounded, more connected with your body, more aware of yourself in your totality. But it's a shame because, for instance, I saw, as I said, this big sangha I was part of because I was following Buddhist teacher. You see all these people getting stuck into this narrative, into these theories, into these beliefs, into this fake, actually, spirituality, these fake behaviors, right? Because if we're here, maybe watching these kind of videos, we're interested in spirituality. But the best thing that will be actually good for us, the good thing that we could do actually, is dropping all those elements, also spirituality. Just stop searching mystical things. Just do something if we are practicing some kind of system and seeing for ourselves if it is true and what it is true. Because also we understand according to our perspectives what people tell us according to their experiences. But most of all, really dropping the idea of being a spiritual guy, just a normal human being. And there is a saying in the East, I don't know exactly where, I'm in Vietnam by the way at the moment, traveling, that says before, I think it's Taoist one, before studying, before learning, I thought that the mountains were just mountains. It goes something similar. When I was practicing the mountains, learning the practice, the mountains were not mountains anymore. When I actually understood firsthand, the mountains were back to be mountains. And that is the most simple yet difficult thing to do for many people, not having any label, not following a guru. We can even learn from a dog, and maybe the dog can teach us more about life than going blindly following what somebody else is saying, because we are becoming like puppets, spending lots of time on this dumb YouTube channel, or maybe acting according to what that person is saying. We are not living our life fully, spontaneously, completely for our own. We are not responsible of our life. That's a big shame. And as I said on the other video, we think that we travel here in the East and we find some kind of magic, but the world is crap everywhere. And this topic that I'm trying to share with you today, I don't have any kind of truth. I'm just sharing my point of views of this thing called life as we go through. This topic, this problem of being enrolled into this guru process and not really looking things for ourselves, analyzing things for ourselves, exploring our body for ourselves, bringing order in our life for ourselves. That's a big phenomenon taking place, especially nowadays, that there is great confusion in the air. So it's very simple, especially when we are beginners trying to look into this spiritual topic, to go around and follow some kind of person who seems to be the one knowing or having some kind of special abilities. Because let's say that what will be the point if I tell you, okay, many times I can read people's mind, or many times I can have intuition of what's going to happen out of the blue of those things. So I feel this energetically, or life is made, it's all energy, there are different levels, and you can tap into it, and you can connect to some people. Lots of stories, right? I could use all these elements to create some kind of dependency in you, and that would be the worst thing that I could do according to my integrity. Or I could use them to create a new customer, to create a new student, and to create that dependency process and telling the students, I know more than you all the time. Well, maybe I know a little bit more than you because I've been practicing more than you that specific discipline. But human-wise, do you think, like in the qigong system, that finishing the whole path will lead you to some kind of heaven discovery? No. You could still be an asshole in a very simple way, and you might do the first 3 levels actually and change so much in your perspective to just be a normal, simple and essential human being, which is the best thing we can do, especially nowadays that the world is quite rough, and gurus and teachers are popping up and systems are popping up like mushrooms after a rainy day. So just to wrap up and going back to the main topic of this video, I don't want to give advices, because everybody should find out for himself or herself. But in my life, when I was following somebody blindly, because also I went through that process, because we think that person is in a certain way, is clear, he knows more than you, some kind of mystic knowledge is there. It might be there in certain cases, but that was a big trap for me. It was a big trap because we end up listening too much through the ideas of our mind and watching and experience too much through all the filters and ideas and expectation and projection we put on what we perceive, and not listening to our inner knowing. And that inner knowing is only possible if there is order inside ourselves, which begins by seeing the disorder and our fragmented way of experience reality, by seeing the noise that is constantly preventing us from experiencing things as they are, and doing something which doesn't mean just sitting like this and praying and expecting for God for some kind of miracle, or reciting some mantras, very exotic mantras of putting some kind of a dress. That's all silly stuff, and that's also the eco-chic spiritual movement exploding right now with drugs and shamanic nonsense. We are just being tricked by our mind. And the sooner we see this, the sooner we become in control of it. The sooner we become more aware of the actual reality of things. The sooner we become more aware of the actual noise that we have in the head, that is constantly analyzing, fragmenting, dividing, labeling life and the gurus and what he's saying, and we're just killing our possibility of being full human beings. And that for me is what spirituality is about. It's not about this beautiful marvelous actually stairs and decorations and everything. When we start out, all these things, they will be very exotic, like the feathers in the shamanic traditions, and now it's just a piece of art in the sense and expression of human life, but nothing more than that. It's just a structure which is the same like a bar where people go drinking, here people go praying. Both people are trying to look for happiness, right? But here they put nice clothes and they speak nicely and they dress in a certain way. All those fake spirituality infused by some kind of authority on top of us, which is perfect, and our imperfection following that kind of process of improving, which is not needed. If we take life in our hand, we deal with the uncertainty of life. We don't try to look for answers from anybody. We just do our work, which on a very practical way, this is what we can work with. Body, heart and mind. If I can improve this, funny enough, all the other things will start to work better. It's like a structure, like a building. If I work on the foundation, which means having a good body, being able to control it, being aware of it, not just during the practice, even during the day, all the other elements will start to work better. Which means that eventually, with some understanding of the things that I discussed, and maybe you will find even greater insight, not maybe for sure in other places, we can have some clarity and seeing things actually in a very different perspective, breaking down the spirituality, the finance, the football, the nations, the countries, the color of the skin, breaking down all those things and just being able to be empty, 100% flowing with the actions. Because that's another problem. When there is too much thinking, whether it is a spiritual thinking or normal thinking, it's always, thinking. So we create a separation between the action and the feeling and the thinking. So I hope that what I'm trying to say is clear. One little suggestion to conclude this video, in a funny way, in a good way, don't listen to anybody, don't listen even to me, but learn from anybody if, especially we're talking about a practical skill, about the technique, but nothing more than that. You want to apply the technique and see for yourself where it takes you, because listening rather than learning from others, listening and believing what the others are saying, it's pointless. It's like somebody traveling to another country, tell you a story and you just believe it. Maybe you travel yourself, you will find out that things are different, or maybe you will understand what is really telling you, because before your mind was interpreting what it was saying. So I hope that it makes sense what I said.